so cute. Okay, so sorry for the brief interruption there. We had a battery die on us, but that's all good. We're back. Right, so the fossil record is an accumulation of all listed and known fossils of different ages that have been discovered by paleontologists. The fossil record is incomplete, and it is not an indication of all the organisms that have existed in a particular time. So yes, the fossil record does have gaps, it does have space between, but it's kind of accepted that they have enough to give evidence that evolution is taken place or has taken place, and one species has evolved into another, starting off at our unicellular bacteria that have then evolved into all the diversity that we see on life on Earth today. Okay? The fossil record has many gaps, mostly where there is change from one organism to another, so there isn't too much transitional evidence. So you'll see one species in another species, but you won't see transitional evidence, which is obviously questionable. But anyway, fossils of these transitional forms are very scarce. A transitional species is an organism that is characteristic of both the ancestor and the new species. They are considered to be in between, showing the process of change from one species to another. So this, in other words, is the observation of speciation. So one organism evolving into another one. This is just an example of a transitional form between reptiles and birds. And so I don't know how to actually say this word. My son would probably be able to say it better than me. Archaeopteryx. Archaeopteryx. Let's go with that. That sounds great. Okay, Archaeopteryx, there he is. This bird, which is kind of in between dinosaur and bird. So it's evolved, so they've got evidence that this particular dinosaur that did exist has feathers, and so that's kind of a transitional organism, yet it has scales similar to a dinosaur. It also has teeth, so in the beak it's got teeth, it's got these wings with these quite prominent claws, body is covered with feathers, quite a long tail with many vertebrae, and it has the ability to fly. So this is considered a transitional species between reptiles and apes, our birds. Okay, so they say that reptiles gave rise. Scientists have aged fossils by using relative data according to the rock, the strata that the fossil is found in, or comparing to a fossil that is in the fossil index from a geological event. And so what they do, grade 12, is we know that in grade 10 we spoke about the fossil record and we spoke about this concept, but we have the layers of the earth, okay, and at a particular time period, what happens, or how fossilization actually takes place, is that we have sedimentation. So we've got stuff that gathers at the top of a hill or whatever, and then gets run down using a body of water, okay, lands in the body of water and then sinks to the bottom over here. And inside here we might catch a little fish, you'd say, okay? And then we have layers that form on top of that. And so we've got this continual sedimentation taking place, deposition of debris, sedimentation happening, and then fossilization happening. Okay? And they say that all of these fossils in this particular layer has a particular age. So they date this layer. Let's say that they call this, I don't know, 250 million years old. Okay? One would say, and it does make sense, that the layer above that is younger than the layer below. Okay? So this layer would only be dated at, let's say, 150 million years old. Okay? And so you can see that these fossils are older than those fossils. Now, if this layer has been dated at 250 million years and they found that particular specimen at that layer, let's say they find this specimen in another location. They can say that that organism also existed at 250 million years ago, and so they can classify that layer of Earth. So they compare different fossils with different layers of the Earth to give relative dating. Is everyone cool with that? Okay? But then they also use radiometric dating. So radiometric dating is using carbon-14. In actual fact, they don't use carbon-14 anymore. It doesn't go back as far as they need it. Carbon-14 only has a half-life of, I think it's 36,000 years. That's its half-life. So it's insufficient to actually use carbon. So these days they're actually using uranium, and they use the half-life of uranium, which has a much greater half-life, and so they can tell it's significantly older. So what does this half-life concept mean? Give me 2 seconds, sorry. The half-life concept means that carbon degrades at a particular rate, okay, this is quite a chemical thing, from carbon 14 to carbon 12, it takes 36,000 years to do that, okay? And then they can measure how much carbon 12 is present in a particular layer of Earth, and that will give the age. So that's radiometric dating, okay? Personally, I think there's some issues with this specific type of dating, but you know, we can have a conversation perhaps at a later point. Are we all happy, grade 12s? Okay, cool. Let me take